I have great issue with the summary jurisdiction amendment. If you read it carefully, Madam President, what this is saying pretty much is that I don't even have to threaten a public officer. I don't even have to threaten a peace officer. All that peace officer has to do is determine that what I say, as well in my own yard, amongst my friends drinking rum, that I can go to jail for that. And that, Madam President, is what I find completely and utterly unacceptable. Madam President, it says any person who uses, and I'm reading from the new section 4A, any person who uses any threatening, okay, fine, abusive, okay, profane, obscene, and this is where you really lose me, indecent, because then, Madam President, who defines indecent? What might be indecent for you might not be indecent for me, especially if I'm in my home, if I'm in my yard.
We fully support the direction of this bill, but call out that I don't know if this is perhaps the open and shut to it, and I know we have some other pieces of legislation in the works, but certainly we would signal that sexual harassment as a whole, which does not exist currently, should definitely be treated with the seriousness that it deserves. And I think, as was stated earlier, it is also critically important to define what is meant by terms, because what I may consider sexual harassment is not necessarily what others will consider sexual harassment, and what is indecent and what is culturally tolerated, if not encouraged behavior, is so intrinsic sometimes we lose sight of what that is, and that becomes blurred.
What Senator Peyrefitte described, his example of having a barbecue, drinking with his friends, behaving the way he usually behaves, he would be guilty of an offense today. Now let us look at what the bill proposes to do, Madam President. It says, first of all, we are going to repeal the provision that I just read. Now recall what I read. The law as it stands today does not have any category, does not have any class. It says anybody who do their things and anybody hear it, anywhere, it's an offense. There is now these limiting words. If you do it within the hearing of a person acting as a judicial officer and legal officer or a peace officer. So it has to be not a police officer walking down the road. He has to be performing his functions, and this happens. Then an offense is committed.